Let's fast forward to where you see Bitcoin in the financial system, and I'll give you two timelines. I'll start off with the very near term, next year's specific Bitcoin. Where do you see Bitcoin in the financial system?
So just literally 1 year from today?
1 year from today.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll be adjusting to this new world that has the ETFs as top of funnel messaging, and they'll be rolling out massive ad campaigns promoting Bitcoin in sports stadiums and in major newspapers and on CNBC constantly. I think all the talking heads will be talking about Bitcoin basically nonstop because it's going to happen at about the same time as the halving. ETFs rolling out, it'll just be this kind of back in the public scene. It'll skyrocket on Google search and all this stuff again. I don't know what that does for price because usually there's been a lag post-halving before things start to really take off in another cycle. We also don't know if cycles will keep happening the way they have historically forever. But again, chances are until they stop, you got to kind of bank on something like that happening. So I think it could get really exciting. And then the other thing we've seen time and time again is a loosening of monetary policy in election years. And it does seem like we've probably peaked in interest rate rises. And you've all heard from a lot of the much smarter macro heads on this stage than I throughout the last day and a half that we're probably looking at some loosening of monetary policy, or at least a pause in the rises. So yeah, there's a good likelihood that liquidity starts to flow again next year, and there could be a little bit of my up scenario is that there's kind of a perfect storm of anticipation of a price rise from the halving because of the halving meme, plus the ETFs, plus risk on brought on by increased liquidity. And I don't know what this conference looks like if it's 2 or 3 times bigger. I kind of like it at this size. But just so you know, this crew that puts this on, you can actually do a 10,000 person conference when you put up tents in the parking lots and things like that. So we have room. We don't have to move.
That room for expansion. That may also mean more competition for you on the basketball court. I know you won again. You're the twice reigning champion, but more people, I don't know. You could be dethroned there with a 3-point.
Listen, it's not. You can't pry that trophy from my hand very easily. I'm going for 3 next year.
All right, so more people, more competition, but you are still confident that you will be the reigning champion of the 3-point throw. But let's fast forward to 2030. And I use that timeline, 7 years now, for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons is it's a time period that Satoshi highlighted. On Bitcoin Talk, the forum that he used to talk about Bitcoin and advocate for it, and engage in numerous conversations. In 2010, Satoshi posted, "I'm sure that in 20 years there will either be very large transaction volume or no volume." So 20 years from 2010, that puts up at 2030. Where are we going to be in 2030?
I don't do short-term price predictions ever, but I have been saying for a few years that I think we will be at sat-cent parity by 2030, which is $1 million a coin. It may seem aggressive when you're sitting here at 27,000 or whatever kind of extended bear market, but we've seen tremendous rises in the price in bull markets previously, and I do think there was something unique about the last bull market with the billions and billions and billions of dollars of altcoin marketing being deployed to fool people into putting their money into scams instead of into Bitcoin, that just won't be nearly as loud or in the same way, or marketing into an audience that doesn't have counter signal coming from the Bitcoiners, and frankly, a lot of the TradFi space that has started to understand Bitcoin and Bitcoin not being like crypto, counting crypto as all the altcoins. So I don't know. I don't, even though I've obviously put out lots of research over the years about the diminished effect of halvings, and it is fascinating that the price rise leading up to the top of 2013 was exactly 550x. From the bottom to the top of 2017 was 110x. So literally 1/5, and then it was exactly 22x from the bottom, so another 1/5. That's going to break. That's not happening. You can't have a bull market without it going up more than that. So at least that geometric decline in the price rises for each cycle is broken, basically with this next bull run. So I think it'll be, over time, a little bit more of a random walk, and there'll be like raging bull cycles and small bull cycles. And the idea that you would go, 35x between now getting through 2 more bull cycles before then still seems pretty reasonable. I'm not backing off that prediction. And with that, what's really cool is you only need probably like $500,000 per Bitcoin, so about half that to get to the point where you should see an explosion in the use of Bitcoin as medium of exchange, even in the Western world. So not just kind of edge use cases and niche markets and people attempting to kind of push adoption in local situations, but actually having a lot of people that want to start spending some Bitcoin because it's run up enough. Their expectations of the future price appreciation, or the future appreciation in purchasing power, I should say. We're not going to be denominating things in fiat very long.
Well, yeah. I mean, $1 million per Bitcoin in a fiat that's debased to what, I mean, that does put things in perspective a little bit.
Yeah. I've always been a little fuzzy on that, whether we're talking about nominal terms or real terms. I've always said in current day dollars, and I think that prediction for me goes back to 2020. So I would say like in 2020 dollars. So you're probably looking at something like, if that comes true according to my 2020 prediction, you'd be looking at like $1.2 or $1.3 million a coin.
All right. And how do you see Bitcoin moving, let's say, in 30 years' time from that? I mean, at what point do you see it becoming a global standard? Do you see it becoming a global standard?
Yeah, I do. And I think this is one of those things we need to recognize, that Bitcoin is not a product. It's not following a product S-curve like the launch of the iPad or the launch of a social network or something like that. This is a technological revolution. This is something like the advent of steam power or mass production or the information revolution. And these things take, you note them because they disrupt all industries, not just one. And they take 5 to 8 decades. So if you've never read a book called Technological Revolutions in Financial Capital by Carlota Perez, that's where I kind of got the framework, and I've written about this a lot, mostly on Twitter. You guys follow me on Twitter? I do like the tweeter. But yeah, so you look 30 years out, I think we will have progressed to Bitcoin as a mature, widely used global store of value. It will be a widely used global medium of exchange. It'll have broken down lots of friction and false borders between people, and it's now starting to usher in, a new era of, peace and, human prosperity and freedom, because we're able to conduct commerce with each other through the language of money, and commerce brings peace. So it'll be kind of like the resurrection of the Phoenician Empire writ large and global. And obviously it will also follow that Bitcoin will be at least one of the major units of account. I think the dollar will probably still be around if I'm sort of handicapping 30 years from now. We'll still have the dollar and maybe a couple of other fiat currencies, but you will also be able to price goods and services globally in Satoshis by then.